Hi, and welcome back to the Mortgage Broker broadcast. My guest this week is Jamie Thompson, mortgage broker and business owner. The reason why I wanted to get Jamie onto the podcast was to look at niching, and niching is something I get asked quite a lot from mortgage brokers. Should they niche their business? What's the benefits? What's the issues of being niche? And it's also something I've talked about on previous podcasts with marketing experts and things like that, of looking at niching the business and niching his mortgage broker business. So I thought, who better to get Jamie onto the podcast? Let's talk about his decisions to go niche, why he decided to do that, what have been the benefits, what have been the issues. So yeah, let's get Jamie onto the podcast. So welcome to the podcast, Jamie. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Craig. Yourself?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Very good. Thanks so much for accepting the invite and coming on to the Mortgage Broker broadcast. And we're going to have a chat about you and your past and like your history, getting into mortgage services, and also as well sort of look at the niche stuff that you're doing as well on there. So I'm looking forward to hearing all about that, because not really, we've had mutual friends and mutual connections and had few disjointed conversations, shall we say, but we've not actually ever had a one-to-one conversation until recently, till we started talking about the podcast.
Yeah, and we were both going to see the new Bond film that evening.
We was, absolutely. So what is your take on the new Bond?
It's a good film as films go. I would recommend people go and watch it, but it wasn't my favourite Bond by a long way. It probably wasn't even my top Daniel Craig film. But the way it ends, who knows what's going to happen next?
Yeah, exactly.
Not
Who
me.
does know us? Yeah, exactly. I think at the end of it, you left thinking, well, where's it going to go now, and what sort of, who is going to be the next? Are they going to take up any of the sort of the storylines and that can sort of go and diverse and sort of go further from the ending with that? So yeah,
I thought 30 seconds before the end was the perfect ending.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
the final 30 seconds happened, and I thought, oh, that was a bit. Did we need that? Anyway, we won't spoil it for anyone that's not seen it yet.
Oh no, I'm going to say I can't put a spoiler alert for Bond on the start of the podcast. I could, but it's not something. But yeah, I like you. I did enjoy it. I wouldn't say it was my favorite one, my favorite Daniel Craig either. Like you, I think I'm pretty much I think I'm a little bit too old school in my Bond. My growing up of showing my age of Roger Moore and Moonraker and things like that is that their Bond to me. Roger Moore is James Bond. That it doesn't matter who's going to come and go in terms of that. It's just, and I think quite a lot of few people that I talked to about Bond is they have that same sort of, wherever their first recollection of the first Bond movie is, it tends to stick with them, and people just come and go from it with regard playing the part, but they'll always sort of relate to one particular Bond. Is that the same for you?
Yeah, so that's GoldenEye for me. I mean, I was still a bit young for it then, but that was the Bond film I knew growing up. And fun fact, I grew up in the same town as Timothy Dalton.
Wow.
The Bond before Pierce Brosnan, I think.
Yeah.
I think he grew up a few streets away, or it might be just that his parents lived there or something. But yeah, fun fact. There's our Bond link segue.
Yeah. So welcome to the James Bond podcast, and we'll sort of. So no, yeah, I think like you say, we've got to move. We've got to have a quick talk about how's your kayaking going. We talked about that before, and that's something you're looking to do.
Once a week, rent a little kayak on the reservoir, just half a mile away, and just go for a nice little paddle. No phone. I live quite near the middle of Manchester, but there's this reservoir, within the M16, walking distance to me, and just paddle out to the middle of that, and you could be anywhere. But I'm not doing it as nearly as serious as you're sailing, but watch this space maybe in the new year.
No, don't get carried away with my sailing, Jamie. I'm not like I will look the part. I'm good at blagging things, so that I will.
You're
look
on
the
about
part,
sailing around the Greek islands last week.
That is still on the plan. That is still on the cards. And my son, who finishes his GCSEs in June next year, that's what he's still going on about, saying, we're doing this, aren't we, Dad? We've got to get the flights booked and things like that. So, so yeah, he's keen to, as much as I'm. So it's good to have that driving force and that motivation behind to make sure you're doing something. But I think in fairness, Jimmy, like, I know, joking apart, I know we had a chat about that, and I think it is, we're diversing a little bit right at the beginning, which I knew we would. But when you look, like, for you and the conversations we had, and the reasons why I look at and why I do the kayaking and do the sailing is we've got very, very similar sort of motivation for doing that, because, like you said there, no phones, no nothing. You can't be checking your emails while you've got your paddle in your hand, or you've got 3 ropes and you're trying to 4 ropes and trying to make sure you're steering a boat and not hitting any other craft or anything like that on Lake Windermere, for example. Well, yeah, you can't have any distractions. So, but how, in terms of for you, that was your motivation, just so you got some time out from running your business and being a mortgage broker and just having a bit of peace and tranquility?
Basically, yeah. With Corona, any kind of hobbies had dropped. I'd gone all in on launching my business, and you kind of forget about the you time. And I just said, to my missus, look, I gotta just get some me time again, And there's hardly anyone else on this reservoir when I'm there. Just sort me out with the kit at the start. Hardly speak to anyone, and get changed and go for a paddle. There's some nice scenery, some birds swimming around, and after an hour, trundle on home.
What great! But like, how do you feel
do
after it?
Well, good, but like the other day, it got to I got 4:30 on a Wednesday. It got to 3:45. I hadn't done an application I was supposed to have done, but I was going anyway. I wasn't going to not go kayaking because I wanted to do it. But because knew I had to come and do that when I got back, I spent most of the time thinking about that while I was out there.
Right.
So that was annoying. So you got to wash out these things. So even though I'm disconnected, I've not got to that point where I've fully switched off. And
Right, okay.
I think that there's not too much to think about when you're just paddling around. But if I was sailing, which I may start like yourself, yeah, when you've got 3 or 4 ropes to contend with, you probably do have to drop everything else from your mind. So that's why I plan on trying that in the new year.
No, I think, like, say, kayaking it does, for me, I always felt, and I still do now, it just cleared my mind. It was just a time of reflection and not another distraction. There's no emails pinging. I took my phone with me. When I go kayaking, I do take my phone, but and it goes into airplane mode. And the purpose I take my phone is just to take a few pictures. If I want to take any pictures or videos or things like that, I've got the opportunity to do it, because I think you're out in the middle of a lake or a reservoir somewhere and something happens and you've got an opportunity to take a great, unique picture, then you don't want to be stuck without, kind of thing. But like you say, it's like, for me, it's always been about not having that email ping or that, and but just, like you said, thinking about things. And I'm smiling when you sort of talk about that, because a book I read probably a few months ago by Matthew McConaughey. Do you know the actor? Have you?
I haven't heard the name. Yeah, I recognise the name.
Yeah, and to be fair, it's not something. He was on a podcast that I listened to, the High Performance Podcast. He was a guest on there, and he'd written a book. His book was about green lights, and that right there is sort of It talks a lot about green lights and red lights, and that there, what you just talked about, that was a thought in my head where you went to do something, you put off do something and went kayaking, but it was at the forefront of your mind while you was kayaking, and you've not got the green light, that kind of thing. That's just sprung straight in my head there when thinking about that, because you've got to try and go with total, not a clear mind, but then not thinking I've got jobs to do when you get back, because then you can't enjoy. I learned that I was doing kayaking thinking, I've got this to do, I've got that to do when I get back, and it's not the purpose of what you're doing it for. And yes, we're talking about kayaking. Yes, on the podcast we've gone off on a different tangent straight away, but I think it's relevant. I think mortgage brokers, it's not an easy job. It is a tough life, and you've got to have those detachments, particularly when when you're on your own, like
Yeah,
you
that's what I
run
was
your
going to
own
say.
firm, Jamie. That's the
Like,
thing.
when I used to work not in financial services, as an employee, I could switch off from work when I'd driven home. But when it's literally your own name, your own brand, I remember making a post on LinkedIn probably about a year ago, and it says something to the word, something along the lines of, people don't tell you how addictive running your own business is. And I posted that because I realized that I was, working more just all day, till I get up till I went home, not necessarily writing business because it was when I'd only just launched, but it was all the marketing, and it didn't feel like work at all then. But then once everything gets traction, you start to realize, well, I don't want to do that forever. But yeah, when it feels like your baby right then, it's at the start, you can easily let other things just disappear and get overindulged with it.
I know, but going back to what you said there, is that throughout that you sort of said you enjoy doing that kind of thing. But
Yeah,
you are absolutely right. It's something you enjoy, and it is addictive. I totally get where you're coming from, because I know what it's like for me running my own business, my own brand, all the different things I sort of got going on. Like, I absolutely love it. I would not change the world, but it is very addictive. It can be addictive is a great word to because as a business owner, people only see that you've got your own business and this and all, like a lot of the show is always on show, whereas they don't see behind the scenes of the sleepless nights and the worries and the concerns, and actually what goes through your head constantly. It's very, very difficult to switch off as a business owner. I don't know how I just couldn't switch off. And that's why I got into I love the water. I'm very much a water person. So I think then I got into the kayaking and then natural progression to sailing. It was just something to then forget about the business for a little while and worry about something else and worry about me and having sort of some time for me, rather than like you said, being addictive into the business. So yeah. So we've hit bond, we've hit kayaking, we've hit sailing, we've hit
yeah.
mindset, we've hit loads of things already, and we're only sort of so many minutes into the podcast, Jamie. But I knew it was going to be like that. So for those people that don't know you and your background, do you want to sort of give a
For
whistle
those
stop
people that
tour of
don't
your
know
history?
me, so for
Yes.
everyone.
Jamie, you're doing yourself a disservice there, mate. You're doing
So
yourself a disservice.
yeah, so plain and simple, I'm Jamie Thompson of Jamie Thompson Mortgages, and it is what it says on the tin. Basically, I launched the brand August 2020, and I'd qualified as an advisor before that. Obviously, actually working under my dad's brand. My dad's been a mortgage broker longer than I've been alive, so I had a leg up into the industry there. And, got someone to get me to CAS, but he could tell me everything about mortgages, but he couldn't tell me how to get clients, because all his clients are referrals now, or they've been doing the mortgage for years, or has done their parents' mortgage or the grandparents' mortgages, and he probably won't thank me for saying that.
Yeah.
But his business is not optimized for attracting new clients in 2021. So I realized, well, I'm going to have to go and set up my own brand from scratch. And that's where Jamie Thompson Mortgages was born, basically. Not a particularly imaginative name, I know, but I knew that for me to put the time, the effort in, it had to be my name over the door to give it the love that it was going to need. And this was I left my job springtime 2019. Went through all the stuff, doing CMAP, getting signed up with a network and everything. And then, going through CAS, and then come the start of 2020, I was, able to start writing business independently. And then, of course, the world changed, and I'd started to set myself up as, for first-time buyers, stuff like that. Well, all the 90 and 95% products disappeared just as I was ready to start writing business, so that didn't really work. It's not like I was given business from from my dad, because he wasn't there to give it to me, because that would just be taken away from his income, of course. So I realised if I wanted to make a success of this, I was going to have to build something that attracted clients. So I thought about who I wanted to attract, because everything I'd seen on marketing said, don't try and be the jack of all trades. Don't try and be the mortgage broker for everyone. So I'm a great believer in stick to what you know. I'd been a first-time buyer, but I hadn't moved. I'd not remortgaged, that kind of stuff. I'd not been a landlord. So it was obvious who I wanted to help, who I'd be able to give the most value. And that was first-time buyers. I'm based in Manchester, so I decided first-time buyers in Manchester was going to be my niche. And at the time, I thought that was a niche. But now I don't think that is a niche, because, let's be honest, anyone can do mortgages for first-time buyers in Manchester. So what developed from that was, an obsession with trying to get on the front page for the search term mortgage brokers in Manchester. So a lot of effort went into SEO. So that last 9 months of 2020, when I had no money but all the time in the world, I just did work on building a website, on optimizing for search for forever. Because I didn't have any money, but I had lots of time, and that kind of played into DIY SEO, if you know what I mean. And I got there. I'm on the front page if you search mortgage brokers in Manchester now. Not in the top few spaces, but I'm there, and I pick up business from that. But what I realized is, as I was learning more and more about SEO, how to get onto the top of Google, I could be more laser focused with who I wanted to help. So not just first time buyers in Manchester, but actually it could be first time buyers on a fixed term contract, because those people probably need more advice than, they're going to find it a bit harder than your general first time buyer. And the big kind of, I almost call it a micro niche that I stumbled across, was mortgages for PhD candidates receiving a stipend, which is like their grant funding. And that's been the most successful one, really. And, I just go and find cases that I enjoy doing. If there's a lender that I like working with that does it, and there's enough search volume there, I will go and make content on my website to attract that person. So I'm doing the same few cases over and over again. And that's how I've become an overnight success in 30 months.
Patience.
Yeah.
Patience, Jamie. Patience. To be honest with you, Jamie, there's loads of things I'm writing down there, because there's so many things. What's really interesting for me, because we haven't talked before we look to before I wanted to get you as a guest on the podcast, we haven't really had any conversation. Like I said, we've had mutual conversations with and conference calls and things like that with various people, but we've not had that one-to-one. And I think I'm like making loads of notes on there, because there's just so much going on in my head and so much to talk about in terms of when I look back and think about what goes on in the mortgage broker's head of the decisions and the options they have. So DIY SEO is sort of quite a big sort of thing for me in terms of understanding, because people pay for it or they do it themselves. That's obviously the decision you've made. And I think what other thing, there's just so much like going on in terms of going back from that, of people do work going to the family business, and you've used that as obviously as a springboard to then get your cash status. And some people would have gone into a family business and thought, right, that's where I'm going to go, and I'm going to grow the family business and move that even further forward but then you've actually decided yourself that you wanted to get your own brand and things like that. So there's lots of other things, and you've gone local. Yes, and you've got niche. So there's loads of different options and decisions you've made over the past 30 months to then look at what you've done and what you've achieved, and really sort of focus your time and efforts to worry about those options that you've made, decisions you've made, but make them right for you, and having the drive and persistence to make sure that you actually got you made that decision of, right, I'm going to be number one, I'm going to be on the first page of Google in Manchester. So you've gone down the local route, which is something that I talk a lot about, and you've gone down sort of the niche bit as well, but then really done your own and DIY. So is that what you normally do? Is it something like when you did your mortgage broking, like getting your qualification? Was it very much about, I've decided I'm going to do that, everything's going into that, there's not changing my decision, I'm going to make it work rather than deviate from the plan? Is that how Jamie works?
This was not the plan. The plan was
Okay.
so I qualified just as like Ash Borland was blowing up on LinkedIn, on LinkedIn with his videos, and thought, well, he's looking for the same people I am. He was a home buyer coach. I want to find first time buyers. I'll get them through social. I'll make videos and put content on social. I made a Facebook group, I think it was March last year when my world was falling apart. And I thought, this is going to get me tons of business. So I'll post and I made hundreds of definitions and posted them, set them to post 1-2 a week or something. And on Tuesday, I'd feature a suitable property in Manchester and talk about it and how much would you need to be earning to get a mortgage on this. And it got nothing, absolutely nothing. Ran a few social videos and stuff like that, and I just couldn't keep up with how much effort and content you would have to put in to stay relevant. And it is a valid strategy if you've got the time and persistence to do that, but I just couldn't do it every day. And I think you do need to do it every day, and I tried batching things and it just wasn't for me. But originally I thought that is where all my clients are going to come from, social, because I'm looking for people in their 20s, that's where they hang out. But it just didn't work. So then obviously Corona hit, I had all the time in the world. I thought, well, I need my own website. And our mutual contact Alex said, well, you can do this yourself. You don't have to spend hundreds and hundreds of pounds, thousands of pounds a month on paying someone to do your SEO. Now it was like a full-time job. When I said I was just doing it from dawn till dusk, that was what I was doing all day, every day. But because it was my brand and my website, I loved it and I could do it. I don't think someone would do that if you paid them for it, because they don't love it like you do. That's the advantage of having your own brand. And every month I still benefit from the success of the work I did 12 months ago now, because that work still shows up when people search for it. Whereas I found videos, they were disappearing after a couple of days on Facebook and a week on LinkedIn. So that's why I stuck with the SEO and got addicted to that. And you can see your traction, you can see all the graphs on the back end of Google, how you're moving up the rankings. And, whenever someone calls me up, I ask them how they found me. And the first time someone says, oh, I found you on Google, and I'm like, oh yeah, well, what did you search specifically? I still ask them specifically if they're calling up about one of the niche pages that I've got. I know what they found, but if they've got a Manchester twang in their accent, I know that they've probably searched mortgage broker Manchester. But the first time that happens, it's brilliant, and you realise it's working. But be careful what you ask for, because sometimes you get things. You get to the top of Google or front page Google for mortgage broker Manchester, and then you start getting stuff that I don't really want. They say, oh, I've seen your source at the top. I've seen you got lots of good reviews. I want to do this limited company buy to let. And I'm like, we've just looked at, my Google My Business or whatever and seen it's got a lot of reviews and stuff. And I'm near the top of Google, but you've not actually looked at my website and that says, I'm not the man if you want to do limited company buy to let. I even have on my website, speak to these people in Manchester. They're probably better for you. But yeah, you can't, if you just if you just go local, you'll get a very wide range of cases. So when I started getting that, that's when I said, well, mortgage broking in Manchester needs to be even niche. Let's nationalize it, but for very specific terms. And you go and, like I say, you go and find out how many people are searching a term. Is there a lender that you like working with that will satisfy that piece of criteria? And if it is, go to town on it. And I think the mistake a lot of mortgage brokers make is they might place a case where the customer says, "Oh, 3 mortgage brokers have told me this is impossible, but you've done it for me," and they go, "Yeah," and then they just move on and to the next case. What they should do is think, wait, 3 brokers have said that's impossible, but there's clearly a demand for it. Let's go and if you liked that case, go and get 24 more of those cases a year. It doesn't stop you doing all the other stuff that you do, and that's what my strategy has been now, because when I do that, I'm also not competing with the firms with the massive budgets to get to the top of Mortgage Broker Manchester.
Yeah. So when you look at, it's great that you actually get in, because you must have, it's that drive and persistence that, like I talk about, when you're thinking that from a mortgage broker point of view, you're doing your SEO DIY from dawn till dusk, as you sort of said. And I'll ask you the question of whether that's still the case now. But you're not literally, but you are in a darkened room by yourself thinking, this is going to work, this is going to work, this is going to work. And when you don't get the inquiries, it's like, is this really going to work? And it's how quickly you then sort of think, and you're like, how sort of resilient you are to think, actually, no, this is right, this is going to work. And it must be getting that first inquiry from something that you've done, this niche, or the hard work and that you've been putting in for the months from dawn till dusk. You must then think, oh, it is worth it. I have got a result after all. And you must, like, how do you feel, Jamie, when that does happen?
I mean, first, and to answer your question, I don't do it dawn till dusk anymore.
Okay.
But that I don't need to, but that's probably because I did do it dawn till dusk for several months last year. It's the same feeling as when you have your first mortgage offer, or get paid on your first protection or whatever, or it's just that, oh, this is going to work. I know what I'm doing now. The first time someone says, "Oh yeah, I found you on Google," it's euphoric. It's the same feeling as when you get your first mortgage offer for a client, I would say. It diminishes. It's not as powerful now, but there's still a great feeling when someone says, well, all brokers will know it. When someone says, "Oh, my friend recommended me," that's a great feeling. When someone says, "I found you on Google and I read your reviews and I want to work with you," again, it's a great feeling. And it will always be that. But it would be the same. It'd be the same feeling if it was, "Oh, I saw your videos on YouTube and I've been watching them for years or months, and I only just decided to get in contact now because I actually need your service." So I don't think it's any different, the actual feeling, but it is a long game, and it didn't take off. It took a long time to get there, but when you do get there, it's worth it.
And do you think will you ever be satisfied in terms of, you sort of said, I'm on the first page of Google now, but I'm not the first 1 or 2. Is that then the next goal then, Jamie, now? Or are you actually thinking that's, my goal was to get on the first page, and now I feel I'm okay with that?
It depends on the search term. So for Mortgage Broker Manchester, I don't need to be top 1 or top 2, because it attracts such a broad range of cases. Whereas I want first time buyers, with as simple as possible, really, that just want the hand holding and taking through, because that's what I'm best at. And then outside of that, I want the cases that are, those super kind of nichey things, not even super niche, just, where they might have gone to the bank themselves and been rejected because of a criteria issue. But I know, well, that lender will do that off the top of my head. Then it just becomes very easy, and I don't. it was so much more. And new brokers will relate to this. Like every case you get for the first few, you're checking every single piece of criteria because you don't want it to be declined for some reason, and then you find out, oh, that lender, actually they need 6 months employment history, which was a surprise, and you're checking everything. And if you were having a new case, a new scenario for every case, or many cases, you operationally it becomes harder to work. Whereas if I get the same case over and over again, it's really nice and simple, because it seems niche to the world or difficult to the world, but when you know the answer to it, it's not.
Mm-hmm. I think it just accelerates your learning, doesn't it? Like you said, when you become out as a mortgage broker for the first time, you've got all these lenders, all these different clients, all these different client scenarios. There is no, like I always talk about, there's no one big book of just there you go, that's how you become a successful mortgage broker. It's just physically impossible, because but then like you giving yourself a far greater chance of sort of converting that client and by having that niche, because you're just being specific in, like you said, first time buyers is very general, isn't it? It's like, it's the right thing to look at. You're helping your clients through the whole process and the holding the hand and things like that of what you do for your clients. But then the stabbing stuff is sort of so niche. But then, like as another broker, if that got sent to 95% of the mortgage broker population, they'd be thinking they'd want an easy life, so they'd either get rid of it fairly quickly, like, and just go, I don't, because as a mortgage broker, you don't want to look, as human beings, we don't want to look stupid, but as a mortgage broker to a client, you really don't want to look stupid in front of your client. So then the client's talking about something. It's one of those clients that will get put to one side by 95% of the mortgage broker population because they don't understand it.
And I was that 95% for some of my niches 12 months ago. In fact, a friend doing a PhD asked me, can I use this to get a mortgage, not long after I first qualified? And I said, well, what is it, this stuff? She's like, oh, it's a tax-free grant. I said, there's no chance you can use that. And now I know that she can. And, I don't blame people, or the mortgage broker say, no, there's no chance, because that's what I would have said. I thought there's no chance a lender would accept some form of tax-free grant, but they do. Mm-hmm. But it's like, in the early days, you say yes to everything because, it's scrappy. It was. You say yes to everything, and I'm running around, doing this, that, and the other, and not getting anywhere. And now something comes in that I'm like, this isn't for me. I've got the confidence to say, you know what, this isn't for me. You should go and just Google mortgage broker 4 and then the scenario that they've just given me. Now, for all I know, you might do a quick search on Knowledge Hub or whatever, but if it's something that I think, well, no, they'd be so much better just going to someone that specializes in that or is very experienced in that, I'll just tell them. And that's not, I don't feel like that's me getting rid of business anymore, because I know that I'm going to get some cases come in that I do want to do. And rejecting the ones that I don't want to do frees up more time to do more of the ones I want to do and market myself to generate more of those. But that took a lot of kind of discipline and confidence to get to that stage. And like yesterday, an old colleague emailed me saying, oh, James, I know you're a mortgage broker. Can you help me with this? And I was like, I mean, I could, but I'm not going to be as good as someone that does that a lot. I think you should go and find someone that does that a lot. And once you kind of are in a position to do that, it becomes a lot easier. But you're not always in the position to do that, especially at the very start.
I think that's it. So at what point did you sort of think, actually, I'm going to go niche? Did you think it was something you always wanted to do, or was it just the way that you went and your business went from your own personal point of view?
It just kind of happened because I was working on getting on the front page for Mortgage Broker Manchester, but you learn those skills can be applied to every search term in the world. So I started looking at what other search terms have got potential. So if you cannot be competing with hundreds of big firms trying to rank for the same thing, you're going to get there a lot quicker. So it's a lot easier to go for a smaller search term than to go for one with tens of thousands of searches a month, because all the big banks are going to be there, and then all the big brokers that have got hundreds of thousands of pounds a year to spend on SEO. But I'm just me, and I only need to write enough cases for one person to make a living. And you don't need actually to write many cases to make a good living. If you're not wasting a lot of time researching a new scenario every day.
Yeah.
And then when you get busy, outsource some lower value tasks, and it just keeps going and going and going. And what will be really interesting is when my renewals start coming round as well. Because I don't know what I'll do then if I keep attracting the same level of new business.
You'll then make a decision at that point in terms of how you can then still make sure, because the people, your renewal stuff they're your clients. They bought into you, they bought into Jamie, they bought into you, your service, they trust you, they know you. It's very difficult to then move that to a third party when actually they've bought into you. So, and that doesn't always work. Like, there's got to be a certain amount of trust between you and the third party if it's something you're looking to do. But I think it's just about managing time. I don't know, Jimmy, you might find that stage is then when you need to grow and get another mortgage broker in the business to help you then to look at, you're doing this niche and you're doing your SEO and you're doing the other things behind the scenes, and you look at the niche stuff. Well, maybe it is a case of having somebody then that you know and trust to then service because it's still then trading under the Jamie Thompson name and brand. They just happen to be a mortgage broker that's trading under that style. Yeah. That's something that's gone through your head, because you quickly acknowledged that was, and agreed with that comment right there, Jamie.
Yeah. So my brother's just going through CMAP at the moment, so maybe there's the thing there, but I suspect he will want to do the same route I've done and be generating his own clients and not paying away, have a big pay away to his older brother on every case he does, which is understandable, because I didn't want to do a pay away on every case I did, hence why I wanted to own my own brand. It'll come when I have to make that decision, but right now, I'm just enjoying being, having a steady flow of business for myself, because it's been like that for a few months now, much of this year, but it hasn't always been like that. So let's just make sure that this is steady. And I feel like I've got all the time in the world, but it'll race past. But I've no need to kind of run before I can walk, shall we say.
Okay, so you're quite a grounded mortgage broker then, Jamie.
Yeah, and I asked you this on our phone call recently, when we first spoke about doing this. I asked you if you were advising and running and managing your business, and you basically said, I don't think I could do both to the level that I'd want to do both to, so I just run the business. And I have managed people before, not in financial services, but I don't have a rush to get back to that either.
Is that? But I think a lot of I think they want to do that or not. I know there's quite a few people that I've known in my past who've been the sort of sales managers, regional managers, and then gone to set up their own small, gone as mortgage brokers, and then grown the business fairly quickly. And that tends to, I think, because you have that, particularly in financial services, you manage mortgage brokers, you'll tend to want to grow your business. And unless you want the easy life, which was what I thought I was being a self-employed mortgage broker and owning a firm, which is clearly not the case, as we've already talked about. I thought my life was stressful in a large corporate sales manager kind of role, where it's a whole new level, doing something like this. And I think from your point of view, then, into when you look back and look at what you've achieved over the last 30 months, what's sort of been your sort of greatest challenge? What's been the taking you back to that point, thinking, have you ever had that thing thinking, oh my God, is this right for me? Is this exactly what I wanted to do?
I mean, it's only recently started feeling like a job and work, if that makes sense, because the chase was very fun, but now it kind of comes in naturally, and you know, I say that the last 3 weeks have been really quiet for me, but all of a sudden this weekend it got mental, and I've had loads of inquiries, and I'm absolutely packed now. But you know, who knows when that will turn into business? But there hasn't been is this right for me? This is a great career, especially if you're in control of your own hours, your own kind of marketing, what you want to do, and no, there's definitely no regrets. The only thing I miss at the moment is that ability to go, right, I'm having 2 weeks annual leave. I mean, not that I've been able to go anywhere for most of the last 18 months anyway, but it's only now that, you know, I could go wherever I want, because I've got the means, but I don't have the time. So that's the thing that I miss, because I think, well, how do I deliver on service if I'm away for 2 weeks? Well, that's when you do need to go to that next level and get staff, perhaps. That's where, you know, when my brother's fully up to speed, he can have my phone while I go away, and vice versa. But you know, we're still a while off that yet. But you know, I have complete freedom to do what I want. You know, lifestyle and work wise, you know, I'm sure there are many self-employed brokers can relate that some afternoons you don't do any work, but then, like tonight, my last appointment starts at 8 p.m. But you know, I probably didn't do any work after 2 yesterday. I'll sometimes work Saturday mornings if need to, but it feels very different when you're getting paid for it, as opposed to, you know, getting paid the full amount for it, as opposed to you're on the clock. It's a very different feeling. Hence why I won't do like an initial appointment on a Saturday morning, ever. I've maybe done one or two, but I don't do that. But I will do a presentation on a Saturday morning. Okay. Right, this is the mortgage you're doing, this is the protection we need, because I feel like I'm getting paid for that. Does that make sense?
Totally. It does, and it does make total sense, because I think what I've learned over the years is, Jimmy, that the first appointments on a Saturday tend to not be the greatest ones in terms of show up, getting the most out of that client, the actual client turning up for the first appointment, or actually, like you say, there's other things that people can be doing on the Saturday mornings rather than sat with a mortgage broker, which, even though I love what I do and I think that the actual role is so rewarding, mortgages is not the most interesting thing in the world. And I'll always say that. So people don't wake up today going, do you know what, I'm going to take my weekend out and talk to a mortgage broker. They won't do that when they can do that on a Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Monday night, wherever the case may be, because people's weekends tend to be more precious. But you've got the flexibility to do that, and you doing what you're doing, the resent's not there that you're actually forced to do that on a Saturday morning or an 8 o'clock tonight and things. There's not the resentment of thinking, I'm forced to do this, and somebody's being told, I'm being micromanaged and told I have to do this appointment because I've got to hit my appointment target this week, or I've got to do my sign. Like you're looking at that from a lifestyle point of view, as well as the service from your client, because it's your business, it's your name above the door, and it's your client. But at the same time, it's your life. You can do what you want to do when you want to do it. And do you have any guilt with that, thinking I'm not going to work after sort of 2 o'clock on a Monday afternoon this particular week or anything like that? Do you ever get that sort of?
Not when the following day you've got appointments booked 3 till 8. If I didn't have those appointments booked, I might do. But when you think, well, if I'm going to work late, gone 8 p.m. tonight, why? There's no harm in having this afternoon off. If I don't, I'm going to burn out. And if I've not got a productive task to do in that time anyway, why would I?
Mm-hmm. It's sort of, it's working best to your it's your time at the end of the day, it's your diary. So you're on, but I think it also works best for you when you're most productive and things like that as well. I talk about structure to your week, and like my days are very structured in terms of Mondays I'll focus on this area, Tuesdays this and this, that, other. And I try and encourage to talk to mortgage brokers, particularly my firm, about trying to get that structure. So if you're looking at your SEO for you or your content or anything like that, is then you're doing it at certain times every week, which will just help with structure and things like that as well. But I think what I'm getting, Jim, is that the Thompson, so obviously your father's got his own mortgage business, your brother's going into mortgage sort of business now. So clearly this is something, did you always know you were going to be a mortgage broker, or was there any fight at that point, saying your dad's sort of saying, oh, you're going to come and work in the firm? Or how was the sort of family setup from that? Because it seems quite a relaxed family setup, if I'm honest.
I was always going to be an airline pilot.
Wow.
But it didn't happen because I had my first lesson and it didn't go very well. I just threw up the whole time. So I never went back for another. And I've tried gliding since as a hobby, and it was the same result. So that kind of got knocked on the head. But as a child and a teenager, I was obsessed with that. Probably to the bit too much. But every day you get home, go on flight simulator. But to be honest, I look at that profession now, and it's not a profession I'd want to be in. With the hours, the pay's not what it used to be, and all this, that, and the other. But did I always want to be a mortgage broker? I didn't always want to be a mortgage broker. So I went away to university, and I came out with an economics degree. And my dad said, well, you could look at working with me. And at 22, I was like, absolutely not. I'm not leaving university and then going into the family business, because that wasn't right for me. For some people, it absolutely is, but I didn't want to do that. I ended up managing a nightclub for a year that was at the university. I got the job at the nightclub in the first place, picking up glasses, because the cafe had already given out too many jobs. So I fell into that. And 4 years later was managing this nightclub, and we smashed it. It was brilliant. But again, knew I didn't want to do that for a year. And Dad said, well, why didn't you do CMAP and you could come work for me? But I hadn't achieved anything. I didn't want to go and do that. So I got on a graduate training program with a logistics company, and it was a 2-year program. And I remember in the interview, it was a 2-day interview at a hotel in Northampton, and the HR director for this big company said, well, where will you be in 2 years' time? And I described this role that I would want in 2 years' time, and 2 years later I got exactly that, and I absolutely hated it. So I got what I wanted, but what I wanted changed. Mm-hmm. And by then I'd bought my first house, I was engaged, we were settled. I'd managed people at the club, I'd managed people through this grad scheme, I'd achieved some things myself. It's not like I got to the top, but I'd set and done some of the things that I wanted to do. And it got to the point where I thought, well, if I keep going in this career, the further I get in, the harder it will be to leave at any point and go and work for myself. And the first year, and as a mortgage broker, if you're not walking into a client bank, you're not going to earn much money. And I thought, well, the later and later I leave it, the harder it gets. I'm in a position now where I can do it, and I feel like I can do it, and got my own house and stuff like that. And that's when I thought, well, why would I stay doing something that I've all of a sudden started to hate, even though it was exactly what I wanted? Let's go for it now. And that was the point where I was like, right, let's be a mortgage broker. So it was always an option, but it wasn't just what I was going to do. I didn't want to just go and do that straight away.
And so there's that, because I talk quite a bit about the support behind the scenes and stuff like that. And obviously you've gone through that paid, employed security kind of role that you thought you wanted and you grew into, and then actually come to hate what you were doing, and then thought, I need to go, you're going to set your own business up and go self-employed. Is that, so behind the scenes support from, obviously, I'm guessing now your wife, or you engaged at the time, unless you're still engaged now. I don't know. I'm
still engaged.
Oh yeah, I'll get that. Yeah, fine. Apologies for that. I've just got you. I've just committed to marriage.
It has been a while, but there's been other things we wanted to do in the meantime, like get the house, set up a business, get a dog, and the wedding thing just got pushed into the long grass.
Yeah. Which I'm sure, like you say, I'm not trying to get you married off, Jim, whatsoever. Don't panic about that. And obviously, but I think you must have good support with your partner behind the scenes to be able to do what you've chosen to do.
Yeah. Oh God, it would have been a lot harder if I didn't have a partner and we didn't have her job to make sure we could get us through and that kind of stuff. And we're never at risk of not being able to pay the mortgage or the bills or anything, but for the first while, it probably helped that we couldn't spend much money anyway because it all coincided with the pandemic. But living off, and we'd made sure that there was a bit of a buffer as well. But the first many months, it takes a while to get going, and not much comes in for a while. But then when it does come in, the going gets really good. And at some point, a flick switched, and it makes all the low months worth it, basically.
I think that if only there was a switch there, Jamie. All the hard work.
It was a switch that flicked by itself almost, but it was a switch protected by a box very difficult to get into, shall we say?
Yeah, that's probably a good description. Probably somewhere really like high up, and like I said, there's quite a lot of security covering that box. But you're right. There is a point where you actually, I use the term of getting your head. I'd used the sort of the sprinting analogy of you're in the blocks and you're setting your firm up and you've got your head down and you're sort of trying to get out your blocks and you're slowly but surely getting your head up, and then that switch is then flicked, and then you're now in your stride and you've got your chest out and you're probably racing for the line.
It must be so much harder, if you've already got children as well, to leave employment and go self-employed. But I know people that have done it and made a success of it, and having them to take care of probably motivates you even more. And maybe if I'd have had that, I might have worked even harder and done it even sooner. But I was I was not in a position where I had that to worry about, which made it easier than some people would. So I can't imagine if I thought it was risky, then if you've already got a family to support, hats off to whoever does that and makes a success of it.
It takes a certain type of person, definitely. Like you said, when you're juggling the kids, and that's what. But a lot of people do it, and like you said, make a success out of doing that because they do it. They go self-employed because they can then juggle with the kids and childcare and things like that as well. So there is that. I think if you're well organized, well structured, and have the right mindset, and the right drive, then you will make it work. But you've got that work-life balance that. Like I know brokers in my firm who drop the kids off at school because that's important to them every day, and they pick them up from school because that's important to them every day, and that they work the diaries around that. So, and they've got that support and things like that as well. So,
do you know what my favourite thing is about like flexibility and working is that I can have my hair cut in the week. I don't have to go at the weekend or after work. I guess that gets scaled up even more to something like dropping your kids off when that's important to you. But yeah, that's my little kind of oh yeah, I'm so pleased I can do that.
You can do it, but that's all relevant, Jimmy. Like, it's not about dropping. It's not about dropping the kids off. Everybody, getting the haircut is important. Doing your kayaking is important. Like progressing your sailing and things like that. It's all those little things that make the bumps in the road and the roller coaster ride of being a mortgage broker, make those things a little bit easier. Yeah, it softens the blow, shall we say? So, Jimmy, what does the future look like then? If you know at this moment in time, where's sort of Jamie Thompson Mortgages going and the niche brands and stuff like that?
I mean, I hope the immediate future is more of the same of the last few months, or probably just more of the same of this whole year now, or certainly the last 6 months, because that means I've really made a success of it. And then at some point, there's decisions. Well, how do I take people on? Do I grow it? It was never my intention to build a brokerage as such, hence why it's called Jamie Thompson Mortgages. But will I employ people? I'll have that decision to make, I hope. But that's a nice decision to have to make, because like my dad, he's just one man banded it all the way. Someone does some admin for him, but that's what he wanted. He didn't want to have to worry about other people and other advisors. But just because that was right for him doesn't necessarily mean it's right for me, because I like the idea of being a bit more of a free spirit, having it done for me. Perhaps I could be the next Craig Skelton.
No, you don't want to do that, mate. You don't want those aspirations at all. They're the last things you need of aspirations to do that. Definitely not.
Well, definitely I'm already thinking about the sailing. There's too many.
That's fine. That's fine.
One similarity.
Yeah, exactly. I'll take that, Jimmy. We'll definitely take.
We both didn't think it was the best Daniel Craig Bond film. We're basically the same guy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you can have I'll gladly get you back of hosting on the Mortgage Broker broadcast a lot more often then, Jamie. Once you get into that hot seat and you can host this and get the guests on and stuff like that. I think, but what you sort of said there to end it on really is not about being the Craig Skelton. I mean, about your father in terms of his goal what he wanted was different, because I think sometimes people lose the fact of what success looks like for them because they're worried about what everybody else's successes looks like. And that's my thing with it, is like, well, it's Jamie Thompson's success is different to Craig Skelton's success, is different to your father's success. It's just forget what's going on in the rest of the world to a certain extent. Stop looking at what everybody else is doing and actually focus on what's right for you, what works for you, and exactly what your goals you set out to, and don't lose sight of those goals because of what else is going on with the rest of the world. And like, you see everything on social media, they're doing this and they're doing that, but actually just worry about yourself. I think that's the big thing for me, is that we spend too much time. People can spend too much time worrying about what everybody else is doing, and then not focus on what they're doing and what their goals look like. So which is a great thing to end on, Jimmy. What you said is that, like, your father's goals is totally different to your goals.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that one's right or one's wrong. It's just that they're your goals and that's what you want to achieve.
And your goals change as well. Like with my job previously, I got exactly what I wanted, and it turns out I hated it. Your goals change. What you want changes.
Yeah. You've got to be adaptable. You certainly have. You've got to adapt in your day-to-day working life. You've got to adapt with your goals, and like you say, what you want to achieve 5 years ago will be different today. Like, it is different for me. So you have got to be adaptable. So, Jamie, thank you for your time. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for agreeing with me on the latest Bond movie. So thanks for that. Thanks for the guest appearance as well of your delightful dog, which we didn't even introduce her, to be fair. So no. Is she left the room now? Is she still around?
She's gone now. She was barking, so she got shut out. And
what is your, like, we need to introduce the dog. So, like,
well, she features on the website.
She does. Of course she does. Yeah. Yes, she does.
She's on the Meet the Team page. Documents say she's a cockapoo, but I think she's more of some form of sprudel.
Okay,
Um,
fine. Well,
yeah,
fine. Fine. Well, we'll get her tagged into the when the podcast goes out. We will make sure we get tagged in, and we'll get her on the meet. I'll tag the meet the team page as well in on there, so we make sure that she gets a mention as well. So, Jamie, like I say, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your honesty, and yeah, really appreciate you sharing really a little bit about your background, but really what fundamentally about you and what you're looking to achieve and how you've achieved what you've done and over the past 30 months. And it's not there's no quick wins out there. It has been a journey for you over the last 30 months.
thanks for having me, Craig.